Hi, I'm Mike MacGuire. Today I thought we'd go out and walk through some homes together. This way I can show you how I walk through a home and point out things to think about. You may be walking through and looking for how your furnishing may be placed or whether this is going to be the best layout for your lifestyle. I tend to look for things that might adversely affect you in the future. So mostly it's just going to be items that you might look past or overlook. But I like to point them out to my clients so they know exactly what they're getting when they are going to close on their home. So let's go out and do this together and point out some things to think about. Okay, with windows. When I'm not showing homes, a lot of times I may walk into a house and I'll immediately look at what are the age of the windows. So there was a company here in town called Oldak. They put wood windows in the houses from about 1980 through 1994, 1995. The problem is that the Oldak windows were manufactured in Oregon and then shipped to Colorado, two completely different climates. This is an alpine desert, so the wood would shrink and break down. So what happens is over time, these become very loose. They're not airtight. The window seals, the thermal seals break down. You can see how flexible that window is. So to give you an idea, it's about $500 a hole when you're replacing the windows. So big windows, small windows, different shapes, but on average around $500 a hole is something to budget for and to think about when you're negotiating with the seller. But at any rate, this is something I typically will look for that I want to make sure you can see that won't adversely affect you in the future. Okay, now down in the basement level of the house, I don't know if you can hear this, but this is the sump pump. We have had a lot of moisture this year, and this sump pump is doing what it's supposed to do, but that is definitely something you want to keep an eye on, because these are only going to be kicking on when the moisture levels or the water levels kick up a lot, and they will start extracting water in the basement so you don't have problems. This basement looks great. It looks like it's nice and dry, but whenever there's a sump pump, you want to make sure that it's operating correctly, that it's got proper power, and it's not going to trip off when you're gone, and then you have additional problems when you might be out of town. So now we're in a house that will have a crawl space. A lot of homes in Colorado Springs should have basements, but in a patio home complex or a smaller subdivision, they won't necessarily have a basement. They'll be on a crawl space. There's things that I always want to check out on a crawl space, and that is it dry? Is it clean? And if the furnace is down there, there will be what's called a horizontal furnace. Most HVAC contractors will tell you that a horizontal unit can be prone to having a cracked heat exchanger. So we want to make sure that that's checked out as well at the inspection. Let's just check this thing out. Also on the main floor, you can see this is where the water heater is, which is a lot better access because these can fail and you don't want to have a big bunch of water in the crawl space. So let's go downstairs and take a look at this and see what kind of furnace is in there. Okay, I'm gonna get down in here. I'll have Missy hand me the phone. So this is the crawl space. It's a little dark down here, but you can get the overall shot. It's very dry. That's what you want. It's also has that horizontal furnace I was talking about, and that's something that a lot of HVAC contractors will say you got to look out for to make sure it doesn't get a cracked heat exchanger. So that's just one thing I always want to do and take a look at a house. Make sure I don't have a lot of moisture, water, mildewy smell that could cause problems. Okay, now we're going to go into the utility room. When I walk into houses, a lot of times I will immediately go downstairs. You can look around the house all you want. So I'm looking in the utility room. I'm specifically looking for a couple things. One is this particular house has what's called polybutylene piping. And polybutylene was used for about 12 to 15 years, but they had class action lawsuits against it because it was failing back in the walls. And you can see how it runs along the floor joists and it runs the entire plumbing system for the home. It can be changed out. There's a great company locally in Colorado Springs called Replumb Specialists, and that's replums, plural.com. And you can take a look at their site. It'll give you a lot of great information about it, but it is, you can change it out, but it's something we'd have to factor in at the negotiations that we start with. Just something to think about. Another thing that I'm going to be looking for is this is most likely the original furnace. This house was built in the early to mid 1980s, and it at least appears to be the original furnace. If the furnace was changed out and it doesn't have a regional building department permit sticker on it, then Missy will do a little bit of research to find out, did they pull the necessary permits to make sure it was done appropriately. But this water heater, you can see, was changed out, and I can see that it was changed out in 2011, or it looks like 14. But at least tells me that they did pull the necessary permits for this, and it's not something that you would have to address in the future. Most importantly, you just want to make sure it was done correctly by a licensed contractor, not just somebody doing it on the weekend with their friends. Hi, now we're going to talk a little bit about backing to busier roads. Every home that you see that does back to a busy road is obviously occupied. But I do want people to understand that having that in the background can be a deterrent for other buyers, or if you like to sit out in the evening and enjoy the quiet, it's a little tougher to do. So it's just something to think about as we walk through homes together.